The National Desk, America's News Now.
Harvard's president out following weeks of scrutiny of her record and response to anti-Semitism. We have the details. Then the investigation continues. What we're now learning about a deadly New Year's Day crash in Rochester, New York that sparked fears of terrorism. And Americans are feeling less confident in their ability to pay off skyrocketing credit card debt. We're going to share the latest numbers. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Tonight, Harvard University's embattled president has resigned after facing a slew of plagiarism allegations. She becomes the second Ivy League leader to lose her job in recent weeks after scrutiny over widely criticized testimony on Capitol Hill regarding the rise of anti-Semitism on the university's campus. National correspondent Christine Frizzell brings us the latest.
It was testimony that sparked a firestorm on Capitol Hill.
Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment, yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
Harvard President Claudine Gay and two other university presidents insisting the school's commitment to free expression was central to what critics saw as a lack of action to anti-Semitic incidents on campus.
All of the presidents, I don't think Gay was worse or better than her cohort at explaining what the values of the university are and what they're doing about anti-Semitism.
Her responses prompting calls for her resignation and investigations into Gay's own history with 6 brand new charges of plagiarism, bringing the total to around 50. A Washington Free Beacon investigation laying out word for word of examples she lifted from other publications. Likely factors in her announcement on Harvard's website that she will be stepping down as president. The Harvard Corporation responding that President Gay has acknowledged missteps and has taken responsibility for them, adding she's also shown remarkable resilience in the face of deeply personal and sustained attacks. But opposition on campus had been mounting. An op-ed written before the resignation by someone who serves on the Harvard College Honor Council argues Gay's getting off easy, writing, "When my peers are found responsible for multiple instances of inadequate citation, they are often suspended for an academic year. When the president of their university is found responsible for the same type of infractions, the fellows of the corporation unanimously stand in support of her."
Claudine Gay is not the only thing wrong with Harvard. The pressure to investigate and change fundamental structures and funding mechanisms and the cultures of these institutions is going to remain.
Claudine Gay says she will remain on as faculty at Harvard. Her resignation follows that of the former president of UPenn, Liz McGill, who stepped down just days after last month's hearing here on Capitol Hill. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Christine, thank you. New today, no evidence of domestic terrorism in that New Year's Day crash in Rochester, New York, that left 3 dead, including the driver. Police say 35-year-old Michael Avery accelerated toward pedestrians in a rental vehicle filled with multiple cans of gasoline. A rideshare vehicle was hit, killing the 2 passengers inside, while that driver is in the hospital. 9 pedestrians were also hurt, one with life-altering injuries.
Although the motive behind the crime remains unknown, the conversations we've had with his family so far leads us to believe that Avery may have been suffering from possible undiagnosed mental health issues.
Avery is from the Syracuse area. Searches of his home and hotel turned up no suicide note nor journal. The FBI has found no evidence of terrorism or a larger plot. Of course, as was mentioned there, mental health issues now being investigated. The suspect's family is cooperating. An armed intruder, identified as 43-year-old Brandon Olson, broke into the Colorado State Supreme Court early this morning at around 1 a.m. local time, reportedly opened fire and caused, quote, significant and extensive damage to the building. According to the Colorado State Police, the suspect held an unarmed security guard at gunpoint just before state troopers responded. Olson was taken into custody a few hours later and no injuries were reported. Authorities say the break-in decision is unrelated to the court's ruling to remove Donald Trump from the primary ballot. The former president has officially appealed a Maine state decision to remove him from its primary ballot and is expected to file an appeal of that Colorado Supreme Court decision, which goes into effect on Thursday, prior to the state printing its primary ballots on Friday. If the U.S. Supreme Court takes the case, the ruling will be put on hold.
We'll await to see what the U.S. Supreme Court says, and of course, I will follow whatever order is in place throughout the election.
The decision in Maine to remove Trump from their primary ballot cannot be appealed straight to the Supreme Court and has to start with a trial court in the state and then work its way up. As we wait for the Supreme Court to decide, polls show fewer Republicans today say former President Trump bears responsibility for the January 6th Capitol riot than 3 years ago. According to the latest Washington Post University of Maryland poll, 14% of Republican voters think he's responsible. In December of 2021, that number was 27%. Fewer Democrats think that as well. 86% of Democrats think Trump bears responsibility for the riot today versus 92% 3 years ago. Tonight, a top Hamas official confirmed dead in what Lebanon state media reports was an Israeli drone strike. Israel has yet to respond, but Hamas saying the death of its deputy, Saleh al-Aruri, happened during a meeting in southern Lebanon with other Hamas operatives at the time. Al-Aruri was also on a United States terror watch list with a reward of $5 million for information on his whereabouts. The assassination tonight potentially marking a major escalation between Israel and Lebanon. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has vowed to retaliate against any Israeli targeting of Palestinian officials in Lebanon. And it comes as Israel pulls thousands of its forces, mostly reservists, out of the Gaza Strip, said to signal the need to re-gear for a potential flare-up of a second front against Hezbollah, while also signaling a shift to a new long-term phase of lower intensity fighting against Hamas. While operations are changing, Israel's defense minister saying that they will not stop anytime soon, suggesting its military campaign will continue well into 2024. Talk of an elongated war as new numbers spark concern over Gaza's deepening humanitarian crisis. The Palestinian Ministry of Health in the West Bank revealing updated figures that show 1.9 out of 2.2 million Gazans are now displaced, living in shelters or in the streets, with now just 9 out of 36 hospitals in the enclave functioning. Israel under growing pressure to scale back its offensive, now set to defend itself against genocide accusations filed by South Africa in the International Criminal Court. South Africa launched the case on Friday, saying the magnitude of death, destruction, and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza meets the threshold of genocide. So far, 22,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed. That's according to the health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza. Israel says it will appear before the court to challenge claims of genocide, accusing South Africa of giving political and legal cover to Hamas's October 7th attack. And tensions escalating in the Red Sea. Iran has deployed a warship in a critical shipping route after the U.S. military says it killed 10 Iran-backed fighters who were attacking commercial vessels there. National correspondent Atra al-Nashar has more on the rising tensions and how it's now disrupting the global economy.
The new year starting off with a heightened risk of U.S. involvement in a new Middle East conflict. Tuesday morning, Yemen's parliament issuing a warning to the United States, keep out of the Red Sea or face consequences. It's in response to U.S. naval forces sinking 3 boats of Iran-backed Houthi fighters U.S. Central Command says were attacking a Maersk shipping vessel on Sunday in the southern Red Sea. Iran quickly deployed this destroyer to the Red Sea, according to state-aligned media. All of this causing Maersk to pause all transits through the Red Sea for the second time in 2 weeks.
There is absolutely no way for us to understand why certain ships have been targeted, and therefore it puts the whole fleet into play, basically, because no safe passage could be guaranteed.
Markets are rattled. Global oil prices were up to start the day Tuesday. Since Houthi attacks in the Red Sea began, the cost of shipping a container from Asia to the U.S. has gone up 13%, according to FreightWaves, a supply chain intelligence firm.
Supply chain professionals don't want to deal with geopolitical risk and potential of disruptions that are well outside their control.
Experts say disruptions in the Red Sea will hit Europe much harder than the U.S., but still builds the case to bring supply chains closer to home. The reconfiguration of supply chains wouldn't come easy or cheap, considering 12% of global trade flows through the Red Sea, according to the International Chamber of Shipping. But in the immediate term, threats from Iran-backed fighters in the region are only getting worse. On Tuesday, Hamas announced its deputy leader was killed in an explosion near Beirut. Hezbollah, also backed by Iran and based in Lebanon, vowing to retaliate against any Israeli targeting of Palestinian officials in Lebanon, raising the risk of the Israel-Hamas war spilling over into more of the Middle East, leaving civilians and international commerce in the crosshairs. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Atra, thank you. A missing Chinese foreign exchange student has been found safe in a case of cyber kidnapping. 17-year-old Kai Wang was reported missing last week. His family said they had sent ransom money to bank accounts in China after receiving threats from the kidnappers. Search and rescue teams found Wang in a tent in the mountains in Utah on Sunday. Police now investigating what happened. A Colorado woman suspected of killing 2 of her children and hurting a third showed up in court yesterday in London. 35-year-old Kimberly Sinclair was arrested there over the weekend after disappearing from Colorado a week ago. Sinclair and her children were found on December 19th after someone reported what they thought was a burglary. A hearing is set for January 29th to decide whether Sinclair should be extradited to the U.S. Coming up, how bus operators are getting around an executive order issued by New York City's mayor meant to restrict migrant arrivals. Then thousands of pounds of ground beef are being recalled, which states it's been shipped to. Plus, new information about a surgery that could be a game changer for kids with heart problems. We will tell you about it on the other side. The U.S. population is slightly larger in this new year when compared to the start of 2023. There were more than 335 million people in the country at midnight on New Year's Day. That's more than 0.5% increase from last year. Census officials say the combination of births, deaths, and migration means one more person is added to the population about every 24 seconds. Pretty incredible. The Department of Justice filed an emergency appeal with the Supreme Court today. The Biden administration wants the justices to place an injunction on an appellate ruling last month that bars federal agents from cutting concertina wire placed on the Texas-Mexico border. In court documents, the federal government says the artificial border that extends for miles makes it harder for border agents to approach and apprehend migrants. Texas says the administration isn't doing its part to curb illegal immigration. Buses are dropping off migrants, meantime, in New Jersey to get around an executive order issued last week that restricts arrivals, specifically in New York City. At least 10 buses arrived at stations throughout the state over the weekend, according to officials. The migrants then took trains to New York City. Hundreds of migrants have also been flown via private plane from Texas to Illinois. Tomorrow, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and dozens of other lawmakers plan to travel to the border. 5 crew members of a Japanese Coast Guard aircraft are dead following a fiery crash involving the Coast Guard aircraft and a passenger plane at Tokyo's Haneda Airport earlier today. All 379 people on board the Airbus A350 were able to get out safely before the plane caught fire. A Ohio native who works for Delta was at the airport in Tokyo. She spoke with the National Desk's Annie Brown about the horrifying moments.
Judy Carrizales is from Ripley, Ohio. She and coworker Roseanne Burke work for Delta at CVG and decided to take a trip to Japan over New Year's.
We're always up for a new adventure.
What they thought would be an easy trip quickly turned terrifying in the already packed Haneda Airport in Tokyo. She tells me officials made an announcement that a plane had caught fire.
They all came with their tablets watching what appeared to be a plane on the runway on fire. Kind of scared for who was on the plane, especially seeing that it caught fire fast, Before, we even saw what the plane looked like, we kind of looked it up on the news, but the agents had already knew that it had hit a Coast Guard plane.
Carrizales says the airport was completely shut down, including airport security, for about an hour after the announcement. When we spoke with her, check-in had begun, but flights were not going out yet. Well, it's been a scary situation. She says airport officials have handled it well and were very transparent about the fire.
The ticket agent that was taking care of us actually told us about it and kind of showed us what was going on.
Carrizales shared this video with us of the airport, which is packed due to the island's earthquake evacuation orders.
Knowing that you're about to go out on a plane just doesn't hit home very well.
Well, credit card debt is exploding, and Americans, they are feeling the pain. According to a new survey by LendingTree, just half of America's credit card customers feel they can pay off their December balance, an all-time low. In November, 58% felt the same. The national credit card balance stands at $1 trillion, and the average interest rate has reached 21%. An Illinois meat supplier pulling thousands of pounds of ground beef over concerns it could be contaminated with E. coli. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the nearly 7,000 pounds of ground beef products were produced by Valley Meats on December 22nd. Shipments of the beef were sent to multiple states: Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, and Michigan. Affected products could be in restaurant refrigerators or freezers, or yours as well. Those who have those products need to be very, very diligent about throwing them away or returning them to the store. So far, there have been no reports of E. coli-related reactions due to the recall, but make sure you investigate what you have at home. And new year, new trend. Americans are canceling streaming services at higher rates. That's according to new numbers by analytics provider Antenna, as reported by the Wall Street Journal. Customer defections have risen 6.3% in November from 5.1% just a year earlier. To reattract customers put off by higher prices, services are adding lower cost ad-supported tiers as well as bundled deals. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America. Nashville maintains its reputation as one of the most dangerous cities for pedestrians. We saw record-breaking deaths in 2022, where 47 people died while walking the streets. Most recently, police say a man believed to be homeless was struck by a van on Saturday. He died at the hospital. Today, police say a 29-year-old man surrendered himself to officers downtown and is now facing multiple charges.
I feel like sometimes people think that all these lives lost is just the cost of doing business, and it's not. There are cities that don't have anywhere near this level of carnage and loss on their streets, and we can be one of those cities too if we are willing to make some changes and willing to make this a priority.
The city has a Vision Zero plan to eliminate traffic fatalities by 2050. It passed last year, and it will help address safety issues and infrastructure improvements citywide.
It takes a lot of work to keep this place open with so little snow.
And a big part of that work is hauling a whole lot of snow every night to the bottom and top of the chairlifts. It's so thin in places Eric West came to snowboard but didn't.
My board's in the car, and I looked at the hill and I said, oh no, it's a brand new board and I don't want the bottom all ruined.
His son Joshua told me he's navigating twigs and bare spots to stay safe, but when it comes to the risk reward, it's all about the reward.
My friend's here, and I think it's going to be super fun.
We're a little bit light on snow in the Cascades. Here at the summit, we're sitting about half of what we would normally be.
So far this season, Snoqualmie Pass has received 79 inches of snow in total. By the end of December last year, there were 189 inches of snow.
The night before Christmas Eve, an accused drunk driver sped down Minnewawa Avenue just north of Belmont and Fresno around 1 in the morning and crashed through a bedroom at the Silver Lake Apartments.
The wall fell on me and my daughter, so I had to cover up and try to push it off.
Luckily, his 3-month-old daughter didn't sleep in her crib that night. What's more, the car wound up in an area both Zamora's baby and 4-year-old son always played.
She could have killed me and my kids, you know. My son could have been in that room because he always plays right there where the car's at. Thankfully, he was with his mom at that time.
Coming up, a newborn received the world's first partial heart transplant a year ago. We're going to check in on how he's doing. We'll be right back. One year later, the newborn who received the world's first partial heart transplant is in good health. We are happy to report in 2022, Owen Monroe received this historic procedure, just 18 days old at the time, with a heart the size of a strawberry. And now, according to a study published today in the JAMA Journal, the tissue used has grown over time, and new blood vessels and valves have also developed along with Owen. Until now, no heart valve implants had grown with the patient, meaning they needed multiple surgeries as they got older. More observation is needed, but this could be a major medical breakthrough for children with cardiac issues. And it's not the usual way most of us try to improve our health, but an ancient trend in medicine is growing in modern day popularity. Medical reporter Liz Bonis shows us the art of sound healing.
So this is one example of sound healing. What started in areas such as Egypt, China, and India, now richly growing in the U.S. under the names of sound medicine, meditation, sound baths, and sound therapy.
So we're gonna come in right here, and I'm gonna have you lay down.
For those such as Hannah Chapman, it's time out to meet her own health goals this new year.
My goal for the new year in 2024 is to be really present with myself and with the people around me.
And what better way to do this, she says, than to let the vibrations of the sound performed by crystal bowl practitioner Michelle Luck she hears resonate in her body.
And I find that the more I'm able to have that sense of presence, the more I'm able to, know what it is that I need innately.
In addition to helping you focus within, however, a recent study by the National Institutes of Health, which looked at the brain waves of those who undergo sound healing techniques, found depending on the frequency emitted from the sound bowls, people experienced reductions in tension, anxiety, depressed mood, and physical pain. They also had a variety of energy levels rise and fall, and different levels of relaxation. So you can sort of just feel why when you listen, can't you? Most sessions at Ohio's Market at B, where Luck has her practice, start at about $50 a session. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonis reporting.
Well, somebody in Michigan woke up lucky in this new year. They're walking away with the first Powerball jackpot of the year, worth $842 million. According to Powerball, it's the fifth largest jackpot ever won. Also, the first time a person has won the jackpot on New Year's Day since the game started in 1992. That does it for this edition of the National Desk.